What's up, everybody? It's Will Curran from Endless Entertainment, and we are back with episode 9 of Hashtag Event Icons. I'm just so excited to be here. As always, another week means that we got another awesome set of guests, and super excited for this one. Huge fan of these guys, and I think you're going to love when you hear their whole story and how they pull off the most iconic events I've seen in a long time. So before we jump into our guests, for those who have never tuned in before, this is Hashtag Event Icons. We do this show every Wednesday. Yes, every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern right here on the platform known as Blab. What's great about this show versus a normal podcast is that it's your chance to ask these event icons, the iconic people of the events industry, your questions. It's not just a one-way conversation between me and them. You get to ask the questions. You get to drive the conversation. You get to find out new things. If you're watching this show on the recording on our blog right now, you got to be here live, 5 p.m. Eastern on Blab. If you follow us on social media at Hello Endless, you'll see all the links, and so that you can tune in live and get all over the show and be part of something really, really awesome. So speaking of sharing and looking at stuff on social media, if you guys want to take 2 seconds, on the left-hand side, there's a tweet in Facebook button. If you can click that and share this with all of your friends, we want to get as many people in here asking questions as possible. So please go ahead and do that. That'd be absolutely awesome. Go smash that Facebook and tweet button up for sure. All right. I got to stop talking because this is all about the guests, all about the awesome things they know, not about me. So I'm going to start with introducing my guests. So my guests are both from a company known as Red Frog Events. If you've never heard of Red Frog Events before, I was just at their office in Chicago. I met with their CEO. And one thing that you really find apparent really, really quickly when you talk to people from Red Frog is that they're huge on 2 things. One is the culture of the company. If you like the way Google's office looks, if you like the way when you go in these cool startups, you see how they have like the coolest offices, these guys have probably one of the coolest offices. They have a camper trailer right in the middle of their office. It's actually really awesome. And they're huge on culture, but not just the culture of the company, but also producing really awesome events. They started in 2007 when Joe, their founder, was inspired by the show Amazing Race and actually decided that he wanted to plan events that were similar to it. So he went out and said, all right, we're going to create some unique, fun events that everyone can enjoy. And you'll see they have a ton of events under their belt. So my guests this week are 2 of the people that help make it happen. First is Christian File. So Christian, if you want to call on in. Christian is the company's official tackler of talent, and who plays a really, really huge, intricate role in the Firefly Music Festival, booking talent, arranging talent, everything related to all the different bands and artists that come to that festival, which is an awesome festival, by the way. And she does also a ton of other things. I'll let her explain what they are, but handles so much with it that I'm calling her badass all the way, right? So
thanks, Will.
So thanks for joining us, Christian. Next is Kaitlyns Kahan, or we call her Kahan. She's the superstar of style. They have really awesome titles, by the way, if you haven't caught on so far. And she handles all of the vendor relations department, basically. So if a vendor interacts with the company, you probably know about Kahan. And what's interesting is she's been around with the company for a very, very long time, started all the way at the merchandise level and moved her way up to back of house operations. Then now she manages all those vendor relationships. So just absolutely just another badass in the house as well. So thank you both for joining us today. It's such an honor to have you guys, literally 2 icons of the events industry. Thank you guys so much for joining us. So I want to jump into questions because there's just so much to learn about your guys' company and all the awesome things that you guys do. Can you guys first start by telling us, I'll kind of start with Kaitlyns' story. So I guess we'll start with Kaitlyn. How'd you get in the events industry? Did you know that you were you just merchandise, or what did you do? Tell us the whole history of it.
No, I graduated from Ohio State, and I had literally no idea what I wanted to do when I graduated. So I went to our career fair at Ohio State. I was going through all the booths, and I saw this crazy company called Red Frog Events. And at the time, we had an internship program, and you had to be a part of this internship program in order to get hired on through the company. And at the time it was just Warrior Dash, and we had Great Urban Race and all of these different fun events. And I applied and I got the internship. And next thing I know, I was traveling all over the country to do Warrior Dashes. And then after the internship ended, got hired on as a full-time employee, and then slowly started to work on Firefly. So it was an exciting adventure.
Awesome. So you kind of knew from a get-go, you're like, this is the company I want to work for.
Yeah. I mean, I was always the girl in like high school that would plan our prom and plan the high school bar, like all that stuff. So it turned out well that I started actually working in the event industry, but it was kind of always my path. I just didn't really know it at the time.
Awesome. Very cool. And Christian?
All right. So I graduated in 2012 from Penn State. And similar to Kayhan, I actually studied engineering in school. Wasn't my thing. And I graduated and knew I wanted to take a little break from that. Found Red Frog, fell in love with the culture. I went through the same internship program that Kayhan did. And you're just really thrown into the event world. You learn all kinds of things over the course of 3 to 5 months, depending on how long your internship is. I was lucky enough to get hired on full time. And they identified early on that I had a passion for music. And I actually used to DJ and write music when I was growing up. So they were like, and it's a similar thing. Like I was actually the kid that like always made the mixtapes in high school.
Still has the best playlists. Highly suggest following them.
And yeah, shared them with all my friends. And I never thought of it as a career. It doesn't seem like something that you could do and get paid for. So they were like, I think you'd be a great fit for our talent team. So I started working within the talent world and really just developed even a stronger passion for it than I had before, and even more like with the business side than I ever knew. So that I just kind of developed through that team and started doing artist relations. They just go very hand in hand. So started doing artist relations for all of our events. And most recently, I've also done some social media marketing. We all wear a lot of hats around here, if you haven't gathered. So through kind of my marketing ties and talent, I've started working on the event experience side, which is a lot of our event innovation, visual design, stage design, our attractions at all of our events. So I work a little bit in that world too, but I would say my biggest role, as my title defines, is talent and artist relations specifically. So
that's awesome. So really quickly, what's the best or favorite artist that you've worked with so far?
Favorite? There's a lot of sides to that question. All right. The one I always tell people about, last year, Paul McCartney headlined Firefly, and it was a huge year for the festival. It took our team a couple years to be able to book him. I mean, you can't get a bigger legend than Paul McCartney. And it was a lot of work to get ready for him to come on site. And Kayhan did a lot of work for that. A lot of people within Red Frog did a lot of work to make that happen. But as soon as they came on site, everyone with his crew was just amazing. I mean, it was like basically like if you set it up like we ask, then it's going to be a great show. And that couldn't have been more accurate. They were so friendly. He celebrated his 73rd birthday with us, which was really cool. I would have to say that's the number one artist so far.
Yeah, midweek during the week of that setup, we were all like, "This better be a good show. Like this is some tough work that we have to put in for him." But when he got on stage and that he just killed it. It was such an awesome production, presentation, his staff, like everyone. It was so awesome to have them there and to really bring Firefly to the next level.
What do you think that made him? So I think that a lot of times, some artists get a really bad rap for being horrible to work with. What do you think made him so great to work with? And was there could you kind of see it early on, or was it just one of those things that you sometimes just don't know until they get on site?
Every artist is different. McCartney's crew from the beginning was just clockwork. They've done so many shows. They're just such veterans in the space that from the second that he was booked as an artist and confirmed, they were like, all right, well, we know what the next 4 months are going to be like. And it was just, checking things off the task list, really easy to communicate with, and just making sure some things happened. And so from the get-go, we felt the organization from his crew. And every artist is different. It depends on what level they are in their career, how long that they've been with their certain team. and honestly, just how long they've been doing the gigs. And he's been doing them for a long, long time. So they've got it down.
Yeah. Awesome. And I mean, it's legend Paul McCartney. You got to say yes, you know?
Right. That's true. That's very true. Well, speaking of yes, so for those who don't know, when you're booking a band, because we have some people that don't really book bands for a living, you have what's called a rider, or like a list of requirements that artist requires, the equipment, the type of mic they want to have, the type of guitar. But then sometimes, we hear these funny stories about thousands of blue M&Ms they want. So Megan actually had a really, really good question is what was one funny thing from Sir Paul McCartney's rider?
Well, I have to be honest. I wouldn't necessarily say it's funny. Everything he put in his rider made sense. But this is funny out of context for sure. So he travels with 100 to 120 people, which is, I mean it when I say it is a serious operation. I think we had 20 to 25 semi-trucks full of production equipment. They brought in a whole catering staff. I mean, they just, everyone under the sun to make this thing work. So I would say one of the funniest things that came from the rider was just the amount of food that we had to provide for these people. So I got the grocery list. I think it was 5 or 6 pages long, 720 eggs, 55 pounds of flour. I mean, it would just went on for days because he's feeding so many people. It's like, that's a normal amount of food for what they had to eat. But at the same time, looking at it on paper, you're like, are you kidding me? Like, do they even have 55 pounds of flour in Delaware? Like, what? So I mean, that's funny out of context. But, he was everything they did was very respectful. So some other artists, we've definitely got some interesting requests. But for him, they all made sense. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, it totally makes sense. You're like, how much food does Paul McCartney eat by himself? Right.
I believe he was flying in like 2 hours before the show, but he wasn't on site that long at all. But his staff was on site starting Tuesday or Wednesday, so they had a lot of grocery needs.
That's true. That's very true. Okay, cool. So great question, Megan. Thank you so much for sharing. If you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat pane or type /Q and they'll go right to our feed. We'll post them up and happy to answer them. One question I have for you, and Caitlin, if you want to answer this one, you guys have a whole host of different events, right? We talked a little bit about Firefly, which is obviously a music festival. Everyone's calling it the Coachella of the East. What other events do you guys have going on? Because I know the list, it literally is growing every year.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we have Warrior Dash, which is our 5K obstacle mud run. And that happens throughout the whole country. So we have 23 markets where we're hosting that in the States. And then we do have international markets as well. So that's been going on since 2009. So Warrior Dash it's a fun 5K mud run, essentially. And then Shamrock Fest is our Irish themed music festival as well. St. Patty's Day March in DC at RFK Stadium. So that's another event that we're currently working on. And then we have Chicago Beer Classic, which is at Soldier Field in Chicago. And that's in May. And that is, local breweries, national breweries coming to Soldier Field and basically a tasting of all the breweries on site. We're aiming to get around 100 breweries this year. So, and then we have Firefly. So lots of events throughout the year.
Awesome. So Josh asked a really good, kind of an interesting question. I think he asked about, would you ever have time to work out on the road? You guys have so much stuff going on. Do you guys, sometimes you guys aren't physically on it. How much are you guys actually on the road versus, in Chicago?
It's surprising, actually. We do quite a number of site visits. We also travel to our Warrior Dash events as we don't necessarily lead the Warrior Dash event, but we are support staff for those events. The whole company tries to get out to at least a couple events throughout the year. We are a very active company. I try to work out every day and I feel like I don't even keep up with half the people in our company. It's insane. So it's always, I feel like, a group effort where we try to find some time to go running outside or hit the closest gym. A lot of people do yoga. We have gym in our office where people will just, find an hour or two throughout the day to get down there. But I don't necessarily think it's because we're in the active entertainment industry. I just think like our company as a whole, we just love being active, love being fit. So we just try to find the time wherever we are.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's also, a couple things. I think anyone who's familiar with the event space knows you can get just overwhelmed with it in a positive way. Events are an addicting thing to work on. And I think a lot of us like to stay active because it keeps us balanced. Also, on site an event, things are going wrong left and right, typically, a lot of things out of your control. So I think it's a good way to keep calm and to, go take a run, relax a little bit, get your mind off of it, come back with a clean slate, and then approach the, any inevitable issues head on. So that's, I think, another thing that we all appreciate about staying active. And I have to give a shout out right now, since it couldn't be more appropriate.
We're like this question.
An old employee of Red Frog, his name is Adam Kimball. He was one of our Warrior Dash event directors. And he left Red Frog a little over a year ago to travel with his wife around the world for a year. They're awesome power couple. They just wanted to get out and see, as many different countries and continents as they could. He, over the last couple of years, has become an ultra runner. So he started with the marathon, fell in love with it, was really good at it, extended the distance longer and longer and longer, started doing 100-mile races. He is starting next month trying to break the world record of the fastest to run across the United States.
Wow.
So I know, it's amazing. We have 2 current employees that work at Red Frog now that are going to be on his support staff. So obviously, to go along with what Kahan said, like, very active company naturally. We just also have a ton of people that have outside passions outside of Red Frog, which I think is really, really cool and makes Red Frog a special place. So
Adam was a guy who worked Firefly with me. He was working our motor pool, and it was long days. It was like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. during our build, and then on call 24 hours. And he would get up before coming to site and run like 20 miles before coming to site to work for the whole day. Like, literally, no joke. He'd go out and he'd run 20 miles, and I would go out and run like 3. And I'm like, how do you do that? So everyone just keeps trying to. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah. I would wake up and go to the gym. I'm so proud of myself. Like, there for 45 minutes, Adam would come walking into the building. I was like, oh, Adam, just go for a run this morning. How long did you go? He'd be like, oh yeah, just a casual 25, 30 miles. No big deal. Yeah. Waking up at like 3:30, 4 a.m. to get it done. I mean, he's an incredible person.
Awesome. What do you guys think? So you guys talked a little bit about that. It's kind of, it's not obviously like a pinnacle. You guys have an office and kind of things like that. It's not naturally designed that you are active, but what do you think? Do you think there's something in your guys' culture that kind of breeds that activity, I guess you'd say?
I think we're all young. And I think one thing that is a common denominator among the employees at Red Frog is we're all passionate people. We're all passionate people coming into Red Frog. So we're all very passionate about Red Frog itself, but I think we all have outside passions as well. And that's something that kind of makes the culture what it is. And so, I mean, a lot of us, that passion is working out, or is exercise or sports. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's so common. We also have a lot of employees that don't love working out, that maybe like spend their time outside of the office playing music, or we have people just kind of all over the map. But
I think it's helpful too. Like, a lot of people will try to develop a volleyball league in the summertime, or workout classes down in the gym in the basement. Just invite everyone to come. We've had class instructors come to the office before, so it's finding the people who you feel comfortable with and kind of getting yourself outside of your comfort zone at sometimes and finding what works for you. But we try to make it as fun as possible, and other people just want to go for a 20-mile run, and that's cool too.
Totally okay. Totally okay. So on the topic of culture, Alex had a really good question about your guys' office space. So I talked a little bit about, the camper trailer, and I've seen a couple of different spaces, obviously, the Lego table. So his question is, so obviously it's really important, the office space, right? How much do you think that your company culture and the office space and everything like that kind of goes into the fun part of Red Fog influences your event strategy?
I think it's twofold. I think the company space is amazing, and it's such a collaborative space that when you have a question about something, you're just able to walk up to the person you're working with and just ask that question real quick, instead of the 24-hour time lag of sending an email, waiting for a response, not getting the response you necessarily need, going back to that person. So just being able to have that open, honest conversation and just talking to them right away and getting that information from them is very helpful. And I think the second part of that is Red Frog does a really good job of trying to balance our personal life as well. So we get unlimited vacation days. So being able to kind of unwind when we want to, and be able to, if we need to take a day off, and just, make sure that we're mentally prepared for the next week to come, day to come, whatever, we're able to do that and not feel guilty about not being at work that day. Kind of a come and go policy as you need to. So it's definitely beneficial, especially when you're working those long hours on site.
Awesome. Christian, do you have anything to add on that?
I think she nailed it. Yeah. I mean, it's a great space. We do like to do a lot of activities outside of Red Frog. We have an annual retreat every year. The location of it is usually a surprise. We've gone to a lot of different spots, but we literally every year we're always like, you could put us in a warehouse for 3 days and we would have a blast, because it really is about the people. But I do think that our space lends itself to the culture. Everything Kahan said, it's very open. It's so collaborative. It's easy to get information easily and grab someone, work quickly 5 minutes on a project that could usually take a couple days to get done. So they definitely created a space that's perfect for our events and for the type of work that we do. But I don't think that our success is necessarily dictated by the space. I still think it is controlled completely by the people.
Cool. I think that's a really interesting point that you brought up too, that about the space, because a lot of people think like, oh, if I have a cool office like Google, I'll be as great as Google, right? But really, it's only as good as the people inside. You look at all those startups that spend millions of dollars having pool tables and fun things at their office, but they don't end up being successful, right? I
mean, our most stressful time is working in a air-conditioned trailer in a wide open field. And, as long as we can communicate with each other and keep that positive energy around, I think that's where most of our success lies.
That's awesome. Mike asked a really, really great question as we jump from culture to more of the events that you guys kind of plan. What would you say, out of all the events and projects that you guys work on, what has been the most challenging? Christian, you want to start with that one?
Oh, wow. Sure. Yeah, that's a tough question.
How many events have you been on, Christian?
I would have to say, and my answer might be different in 5 minutes, which I guess is good. Like, I can't think of one really challenging, difficult event that it just like haunts me, which is great. I would say one of the most difficult events or challenges personally, 2 years ago, we acquired our first event. So all of our events up until this point have been completely developed and created in this office by these people. We've had the ideas. We came up with the idea, we created the logo, created the branding, and really built it from square one. 2 years ago, we acquired Shamrock Fest, which is our St. Patrick's Day festival. And so we adopted this event from a company out of DC. And I think learning and understanding that event, and not feeling the pressure to put it on the way we'd want to do it, and totally change the event, but like finding the happy medium between improving the event, but also keeping it the successful event that it was created as, was a big challenge for us. And I do all the talent booking for that. And I wouldn't necessarily say that the talent was challenging, because we had a lot of like really great DJs that played every single year that were just so accommodating and so easy to work with. But just the event itself, coming in a little bit blind and trying to bring something back that people already loved, but also infusing some new fun Red Frog elements to it, was probably one of the biggest challenges that we've faced so far.
Cool. Very cool. All right, Caitlin, your turn.
I have actually gotten this question a few times, and there's one event that sticks out in my mind, and I'll never be able to forget it or tell a different event, just because it was my very first Warrior Dash as an intern at Red Frog. And at that time we were at Warrior Dash, Ohio. It was 2011, and it was a rainy week. We hadn't secured our hotel rooms in time, so we had been staying about an hour from site. It was our first ever camping event at the time. We were holding 50-pound hay bales and just shaking it throughout the whole field, hoping that this mud would soak up just a little bit. And after like 100 hay bales, you couldn't even see the hay anymore. It was just drenched in this mud. It was terrible. We woke up at I think it was 3:30 to get to site. We got to site. We spent the whole day in this mud, rain site. Then it was our camping, and that was just people were like to fight around bonfires, and it was a little bit scary. And then we got back to our hotel probably at 3:00 that morning. So it was a 24-hour day. I left that event, and I got on the airplane, and I was like, I really don't know if I could do another event. I really don't think that this is the place for me. It was so hard and so draining. And then I went to my next one, and it just got easier and easier. And now Warrior Dash, it seems like clockwork to us. We've done so many, and it's so exciting to go back to new events and new people coming back, new people joining the Warrior Dash family, and then also new people or old veterans coming back for year after year. But it's so fun, and every single event is so different that even when I travel now, it's to the different events. It's nothing like it was back then. So,
gosh, oh my gosh. So the challenge of the mental challenge with, how do you acquire an event, right? And then you move to literally the physical challenge.
Oh my God. I was so drained. I don't even think I remember that airplane. I was just passed out, so exhausted.
Speaking of, go ahead, Will, sorry. I was going to say, speaking of rain, we have to give a shout out to Firefly 2015, where Delaware got more, I think Dover or Delaware might have gotten more rain in the month of June than ever before. So there was lots of hay, lots of plywood involved on a massive site.
Lots of plywood.
I'm surprised I didn't think about that, to be honest, but yeah.
Firefly, it's such a fun event. You get there and you just remember the acts. You remember the acts that you get to see and that you have produced, and the crowd pack and all the people enjoying it. And Warrior Dash is that, just on a smaller scale, event by event.
So I want to I had a question, and I think this is you talked about the rain for Firefly, and I really want to ask this question. Sorry for everyone in the audience, but there's a great story behind last year's event that has to be told. And I don't know if anyone's quite talked about it. I think you guys got a write-up in an article about it, but I heard stories of amazingness, good things. So my question is, so we talked about it. We had an event trends blab a couple weeks ago, whatever the new year was. And one of the big topics of trends is safety for 2016, right? And you guys have a really, really interesting story of how you guys do safety a little bit differently, and how Firefly itself got a huge commendation for how you guys handled that rain and the storm that kind of came with it. So if you guys want to kind of jump at it and kind of talk a little bit about what happened and how you maybe guys handled it on both ends.
Can you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, for sure. So, Red Frog has always prided itself on safety being the number one priority, putting on mud runs with obstacles that are very high up in the air, and that, we just always make sure to have our safety plans in order. So from the time that all of our vendors get to site, which includes the Dover International Speedway, which we work with directly, and they have a great staff that helps us put all these plans together. To all of our security staff and all of our medical staff, every single person takes a safety training course to ensure that everyone knows the exact evacuation plans, the exact plans for what we do in terms of in case of an evacuation. And just really gets down to, how, number one, we get our participants out first and foremost to make sure that their safety is, that they're safe and where they need to be, and then making sure that all of our staff is accounted for in the exact locations of where we need to be on site. So we just ensure that everyone makes sure everyone is in the correct place, and everyone, we can make sure that they're safe. Last year, it was Saturday of the festival, and the whole day we have a very good weather plan, meteorologist on site who works with us, and they kind of sit and tell us what the weather forecast is for that day. And we had known that a storm was coming. We didn't know if it was going to hit us. We didn't know if it was going to miss us. We were hoping it was going to miss us. That wasn't necessarily the case. So we had to make a call on whether or not we should be evacuating the site. So Saturday, what time was it, Christian? Do you remember the exact time? I don't know. It was,
sun was setting. I think it was 7 or 8 o'clock.
Yeah. We made the call that we needed to evacuate. So we let all of our staff know that this was going to be the case, and we put all of our emergency evacuation plans into order, and we were able to get all of our participants off site and back to their camping locations and in their cars, hopefully for most people before the storm hit. And thankfully we did, because it was a pretty nasty storm that rolled in. But we're really happy with how the evacuation turned out, and think that, safety is always a priority, and which is why we make sure that we have those safety plans year after year, and make sure that all of our vendors are in those safety meetings, to ensure that they are aware of the evacuation plans if and when something does come up.
Yeah, and just to add to what Kahan said, we're really lucky to work with a city and county and our partners at Dover International Speedway, who are just experts in the public safety world. A couple of them work on the Super Bowl and really high-profile events, so we couldn't be surrounded by more people with just an insane knowledge in something that's so important. So we're really lucky for that. And obviously they also work with the NASCAR events, which historically have brought in up to 120,000 people. So they know how to work with crowds that big. So we're just really blessed for that specifically. And we, like Kayan said, we couldn't be more pleased with how it went as a first time evacuation. We think it was pretty dang successful. So knock on wood, awesome. It will be a long time before we have to do that again.
Pray for better weather in 2016.
Yes, please.
Very much so. We'll definitely. Awesome. And then, Christian, I had a quick question. I'm not sure if Caitlin mentioned it when I got kind of refreshed there for a second as I broke blab. Is that with the storm happening, something happened with a specific artist as well, right? Out of that whole thing, how you want to kind of tell the story behind that? And it was. Gosh, I'm gonna totally mess this up. It was the Killers,
you're talking
correct?
Kings of Leon that we're supposed to play.
Kings of Leon, thank you. Yes, Kings of Leon were supposed to play.
Yeah, and they had prior commitments. They had to leave that night to head back to Nashville. But are you referencing what the Killers did the following night?
Yep. No, but I was told that Kings of Leon was you guys' headliner, correct? Is that right? How did you guys deal with them not being able to show up at the festival? Because obviously you have tons of fans there have paid $200, $300 for a ticket or whatever to be there. How did you guys deal with that on the talent and the event side? And then tell us the Killer story.
One of the biggest reasons we're excited to bring Kings of Leon back this year. So from the, obviously that night we went back to the books, looked at every artist that wasn't able to play, that got rained out. We offered them all. We said, hey, listen, we've got a booked schedule tomorrow, but if you want to play, we want to make it happen. Most artists had prior commitments. They were on tour. They were heading elsewhere, Kings of Leon being one of them. So, I mean, the second we got back from the festival, it was a phone call to them. It's like, you know what? We want to bring you guys back. We want to deliver that Kings of Leon at Firefly show that so many fans missed. So we couldn't be more excited to have them on the bill again this year. They're just such a great rock act with a great live show, and we're really pumped to have them at the festival. So again, hopefully better luck. And then for the Killers part, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen at a festival and at Firefly. The Killers covered Kings of Leon during their set. So they played 2 Kings of Leon songs, The Bucket and Use Somebody. And I would just remember, I rarely get front of house to watch the shows, but I was luckily there for one of those covers, and just chills for a solid 5 minutes. It was so cool. The Killers set was actually delayed because Brandon Flowers, who's the frontman for the Killers, went to his lighting guys and said, you know what, we got to rework the entire plan. We are covering the Kings of Leon tonight, so we need to totally change the plan. So they spent an additional 25 minutes, and that's why they were late starting, just so they could work in those 2 songs and make it work with their set. Totally worth it.
Yeah.
Really one of the coolest, most respectful moments I've ever seen.
Yeah. And, you know, that Saturday night, obviously we want to keep our fans happy and we want to do the best we can, but there's only so many hours in the day that we can have our event take place. So it was tough, you know, not being able to have them play, but I think it's going to be a killer show, no pun intended, in 2016. So
that's what I think. I was like trying to not slip a pun in there. Anyway. Awesome. So Alex asked kind of a good question. So we kind of talked a little bit about the events that you guys have kind of do as a whole. Can you guys talk a little bit about any of the new events that you guys are working on, any new markets that you guys are expanding to, anything you guys are able to obviously talk about right now?
We don't have too many new ideas that we can throw out there right now. What we are expanding on is we work with a food and beverage company. So it's called Red Frog Food and Beverage, and we are expanding rapidly with that company, doing a lot of NASCAR events and air shows, getting into the music festival world a little bit. So dipping our toes a little bit with the food and beverage side of things. Our Red Frog Food and Bev team does our whole does our festivals and does all of our Warrior Dash, and we're kind of different in the way that we don't have all of third-party vendors in the music festival. We have in-house food and beverage. So we're dipping our toes a little bit more into different events with that team, and hopefully that will bring new events for us. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's by... I was just going to say, like,
go ahead.
The food and beverage side is like Can said, is like growing super fast and really exciting for us. We like our food and beverage, in-house food and beverage team develops all the menus, all the brands, everything for all the restaurants you see on site. And they've done everything from like a food stand at Firefly to like a full-blown diner that they activated at Electric Forest last year with like shakes and omelets and burgers. So it's really cool, and it's growing. It's definitely innovative. It's an innovative way of doing food and beverage, and so we're seeing that really catch on. We also have a in-house ticketing platform called EventSprout that we have really been developing. They've got a mobile app now, and I don't understand the tech side that well, but like I know it's like everything I hear, it's really cool. It's cutting edge, and that's growing really fast as well. So those are two like more in the event services realm that are super exciting things that are happening for Red Frog. We don't usually disclose new ideas until they're happening, so we'll have to keep that on the down low. But we are also putting a real emphasis on continuing to like freshen up and innovate within the events that we already have. So that's been a major emphasis for us this year as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask about EventSprout. That's what I was getting like super excited about. I was like, you guys have to mention EventSprout. So awesome. Let's see here. We got a ton of questions from the audience in here. Let's go with Mike's question. So Mike has a question. If you could have one superpower to help you produce
not needing to sleep ever. Not ever getting tired. Sleep or eat.
Yeah.
That we don't do anyways on site, so it's fine.
I personally love food. I would choose to, I think someone commented actually, I would choose to fly. When we like look back at our events, we usually take a helicopter up, not me, I wish, throughout event weekend a couple times and get really cool aerial shots. And you just learn so much from getting that bird's eye view. So I think being able to fly and during the event and see little pockets of areas you need to fix or improve on or whatever would be pretty cool. And just flying in general would be really cool.
So like anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You know, Kaitlyns, I would say reading people's minds, just to see what they, you know, maybe what we can improve or what they love. And even though we see a lot of that information, but I have to say, like, looking out at a crowd pack when a show is happening, I feel like I can tell what people are thinking. And it's such an awesome feeling to really see that in people's faces and get so excited about an event that we can produce for them. So, but any other time, maybe reading people's minds.
Awesome. Can you guys tell me a little bit, you talked about reading minds and, you know, how it's awesome to know what everyone's thinking. Can you guys talk a little bit about your guys' survey process and how you guys get feedback for your guys' events? Because it's not like for a lot of planners, there conferences, you have email addresses for every single person, you know, it's very organized. You know, for these concerts, some people are just showing up and buying a ticket. How do you guys get feedback and how everything's going? And do you guys adjust midway through a festival? Or,
I mean, we definitely do. We love talking to our participants, so we try to get into the field as much as possible. And if I see a long line, I'll just go up to a person and halfway back and say, how long have you been waiting here? And if it's longer than 2 minutes, I'm going to do something about it. So a lot of it is just being on the field and just trying to make sure that everything operationally is successful and that our participants could have the best time as much as I can possibly do operationally. As far as surveys go, Christian, you know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we send out extensive surveys, operational surveys, talent surveys, Warrior Dash. There's surveys after every single event that are targeted to the market that was there, asking for improvement. And we also get a pretty like good number of responses for all the surveys we send out. So we love that. We, like Can said, we love having a strong connection with our fans and our participants. And so I think that because we've developed that bond, they do feel committed to giving us their feedback, positive or, you know, areas of improvement. So we really try hard to communicate with them. From the social media world, we have an awesome customer experience team that's always checking our Twitter, always checking our Facebook comments and wall posts, responding to questions, responding to concerns, acknowledging concerns. So I think we've just got a really dedicated staff here that kind of takes it on all fronts, whether it's on the ground, like Kahan was saying, or through surveys and social media.
Yeah.
So.
And to jump on that too, whenever we have our operational meetings, it's so important for us to have our customer service team in on there just to see what they've heard from the participant side and to see if they have any insight on our operations and what we can do to make it more efficient for our participants too.
Awesome. So you guys talked a little bit about, Christian, I know, for example, you do a lot of the social media for Firefly. So Creatives Link had a really good question about what are some of the tactics it's a really long question. What are some of the tactics that you utilize in developing or starting relationships with non-traditional media like bloggers and things like that for marketing and promotions of the activities? So, for example, how do you engage bloggers to start talking about Firefly?
We invite them.
This year?
So
you give them tickets, they will come.
Yeah, so I mean, we try to come up with really cool interactive ways to make them feel involved. So something that is like a pipe dream of all of ours. I don't know if you've ever heard of Wine About It by Buzz. It's a BuzzFeed channel. Hilarious show every week. Matt Belisai sits down, drinks a bottle of wine, and then complains about things. It's hilarious and definitely worth watching. We're aiming to have a vineyard at Firefly again this year, and we've invited him to come to the vineyard and whine about whatever he wants. So that's just an example of something, whether that happens or not, of us trying to cater an opportunity to a blogger's specialty. So that, we try to do that in every single realm. And our media team does a really good job of reaching out and to social media influencers or bloggers or, different people in that world, and making them feel connected and wanting them to come and attend and see the event itself. We can't expect anyone to talk about it until they're there and they feel the magic. So that's always our strategy.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I mean,
Kaitlyns, do you have anything you want to add?
I'm not on the social as Christian is. I mean, I definitely have my Facebook account and Instagram and whatnot, but and Twitter.
Twitter.
In-house, though, they do a really good job on keeping us informed with, emails with specific articles that have been coming out, and being able to help us share on Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, so that any contacts that we might know too, we can pass along, and vice versa, because you never know who you know until you try. So, yeah.
That's very true. It's very true. So I think this is going to be our last audience question before I jump into our last two questions that I always ask. But Alex asked, what innovative event strategies could be utilized in the conference space? So a lot of conference planners are tuning in right now. What do you think that they can take ideas from Warrior Dash or Firefly or something innovative that you've seen?
I think the biggest,
to their conference,
most resounding thing for people is to feel like they can interact. So like, exactly what you're doing here, like inviting people to ask questions that fuel the conversation. I think that's something that from my limited experience in the conference space, I've seen starting to become more of a trend, to make people feel like they can communicate. They are a part of the conversation, not just from the outside watching it. So I think that that's going to be something that we'll see every successful conference moving forward implement.
And we try not to make it so structured and stiff. We have games in the office. We have different office environments. So just trying to make it more of a conversation rather than, this is what I'm presenting on and no one can talk or raise their hands until after I'm done presenting. So it's more of a conversation always questions are asked, just to make sure that everyone is involved and everyone can give their 2 cents.
Awesome. I love those ideas. I think that those are definitely huge trends going on in the conference world. And I always love the idea of how can we bring something from one space into the other, make a conference feel like a rock concert kind of thing. Okay, cool. So I have 2 last questions for you. So we kind of talked about event strategies in general, but I want to go back to even higher level. Do you guys have one tip, just if you had to pick one tip for planners to make their lives and their planning process way easier for events, whether they're planning a conference or a music festival? What would you recommend?
Say prioritizing. That has been a key in my role and what I do specifically. I work with so many different vendors and everyone always has a need for something. And there's always a need that may be more necessary at that moment than another. So just really trying to prioritize and make sure that I'm keeping my list of, this needs to get done, but doesn't need to get done right this minute because I have 3 other things that need to get done right this minute, and just really trying to organize those thoughts and those processes in your mind and writing them down so you don't forget. But that has definitely helped me be more organized and more efficient on site, especially when working with the vendors, and not being afraid to say no, because you only have so much time in the day that you can get done. And if you can't get it done, I'd rather be honest and say no than think that it's going to happen. So prioritizing and not being afraid to say no.
Very true. They always say that billionaires have one thing in common. They say no more than most people.
Maybe one day.
So,
yeah, right?
Awesome. Go ahead,
to learn that.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I would say my biggest tip would be to develop a really strong system of communication. So everyone works a little bit differently and communicates a little bit differently. But if you guys all can develop a strong platform that works for all of you, then when, the chaos of an event, the unexpected things which are inevitable start to happen, you at least have a strong platform to all refresh, go back to, and then move forward. So I think that's the strongest thing. So finding the system that works for you, and then just going with it. That would probably be my biggest tip.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love both the tips. Communication is key for sure. So I love how you guys took something very, very simple too. It wasn't just like, hey, do this for events. It almost could be applied to even non-event professionals too, right? So, all right. So I'm going to end with one last question, and this is everyone's favorite one because they get to see all the links and everything like that. As what cool resources or tools or new things you guys are doing that you guys want to share with the audience? It could be favorite blogs, favorite audio podcast, books, anything at all.
I'll put a shout out in there. I'm trying to think. I'm guessing you guys have probably heard some of the most helpful and creative tools thus far. So I'll try to choose one that's maybe a little more rare, that I've really found helpful. It's called Trello, Trello. And basically it's just a really great collaborative organizational platform. So, and you can kind of organize in columns, which represent different stages of a project. And it's like real time. It's as quick as Google Docs. Multiple people can be on one page. You can have notes, add photos, diagrams, links, whatever, and kind of drag it to its different stages in the project. So it's very visual, and I've found it to be very, very helpful, especially in like an advanced process, which I'm very familiar with in the artist world, and Kahan's very familiar with in the vendor world. So it's an easy way to work with a lot of different artists or vendors or whatever, and you get an easy sense of where they all are in the process. So Trello.
I find people can pick it up really, really easily too, because it's so simple. It's almost like for most people, they think it's too simple. It's really interesting. A cool tool to go on with that one too. There's a bunch of startups that are now coming out that combine with Trello. So they do things like manage how you can see a dashboard, all the cards that are late, all the cards that have been moved to a certain like a new list and things like that as well. I'll have to find the link for that one, but there's we use Trello at Endless too. Awesome. So that's cool. How I know so much about it. So awesome. Any other resources or cool things you want to share?
I mean, my life is in Google Drive. I know it's not that new, and a lot of people probably already use it, but I work with so many vendors throughout the country, and we're constantly updating our quantities and our units and what we're getting. So I have lots and lots of folders. We have lots of folders in office, and then I have a lot of folders that we share with our production department and all of my vendors. And it's just so useful because it updates in real time, and you can make Excel sheets and get numbers and quantities really quickly, instead of just using an Excel and then not sure which one you had sent the last time. So I've been using that quite a bit, and it's that's definitely where my world lives.
We love Google Docs over here.
We do.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Well, you guys are a huge Google company. Yeah. You guys use Google Hangouts, Gmail, everything like that as well. Can you guys talk a little bit about how you guys use Google Hangouts? Because you guys are like super laser focused on, you guys have people all over the place.
We use it for every single conference we have. So whenever you book a conference, in the meeting invite, you can click on the Hangout and you can be invited to the meeting. It's really helpful, especially since we travel all the time. You can see everyone in the meeting, everyone can see you, and you can contribute right there and then. So it's super helpful. I mean, I've been in the car on my phone and I can download the app and everyone can see me and I can see them driving. We also have people working remotely. Our food and beverage team works in Columbus. We have people in Florida. So it's just really helpful that you don't necessarily have to be in the room to be a part of the meeting, but you can be still a part of the meeting and contributing via Google Hangout. So it's been really helpful and successful.
And I think the video aspect of it and how easily it integrates with laptops and conference room TVs, calling in is hard. You can't read body language. You don't know when you can talk. You're always cutting each other off on accident. The Google Hangouts is just so awesome for that. And you actually, like, I've called in on it a few times when traveling, and I feel like I'm in the room. So it's been awesome for us.
Awesome. Any other cool tools, resources, blogs, books, or anything like that you guys want to share?
Another one that I love to get, and I get it in my email, is Bizbash. And it's just a lot of different articles and resources throughout business and event world, and kind of what's in it today and what's in the know about different events in the industry. So that's definitely a good tool that I like to use a lot. And honestly, social media has been, great to, if you just follow your favorite event or follow your favorite promoter or whatnot. It's just great insight and research into what they do for their specific events and what you can gain from others. So.
Awesome. And for those who didn't know, we actually interviewed David Adler, the CEO of Bizbash, 3 episodes ago. So I posted a link over that in the chat for if anyone wants to watch that one as well. And that'll be in the resources page too. So I love Bizbash.
Yeah, I'll send out one more. I actually I just supported an Indiegogo project. It's called RocketBook. Here's the link to the Indiegogo page there. But basically, I still like to write things. So awesome. I still like to write my to-do lists, and it feels so good to cross something off. And everything's so digital now that it's nice to have something that integrates. So RocketBook is pretty cool. It's got a bunch of icons on the bottom of each page, and you can X or color over the icon of where you want it to send. So you can take a page of notes and then use the RocketBook app, and it takes a picture of it and sends it to your Evernote, or sends it to your email, or sends it to your notes, or sends it to your Google Drive based on the icon that you selected. And then once you fill up your book, you put it in the microwave and it wipes the whole thing clean. Yeah, I know.
Impressive.
It's pretty cool. What? Yeah, so I just got it in the mail. I supported the project maybe 3-4 months ago. So I'm about to open it up and give it a try. But
I'm going to come over there and test that out.
I think it's a cool blend of the people that definitely still like to take notes and handwrite some things, but it's so easily uploads to anything, any platform that you want. So.
Wow. I think the thing that, obviously I said, wow, what happened, but I was reading the little URL, it said microwave. I was like, what's this microwave part going with that? I thought it was a joke, but man, the microwave portion is super cool too. Cause my issue is that I have just tons of notebooks, and then you're like, which one is it in? And, having to buy a new
we have
notebook
at Red Frog where I have binders and binders, and I just put them in there, and I haven't opened them for 3 years. I'm scared to go back in and see what's in there.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna pull it out and there's gonna be history and there. That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm gonna I know you guys are super busy, so I just wanted to wrap today's show up and thank you guys so much for being awesome guests on the show today. So if everyone in the audience could give a huge round of applause for Christian and Kaitlyns.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Awesome. So don't head out just yet. A couple more announcements real quick. First of all, where do you want people to be able to find you? I know Caitlin said you're just jumping back on Twitter again.
Personally,
where if people find you,
where
can
Red
people
Frog?
Find you? Red Frog or
well, Red Frog's all over the countries. So we've got events probably in a town near you, wherever you are. Warrior Dash travels nationwide, so look for us there. A town near you. And usually it's a town, not a city, because we build those things in the middle of nowhere. And obviously our festival season's kicking up. We'll be in DC in March, and then in Dover, Delaware in June. So those are our big events.
May.
Yeah, we're always in Chicago. Come visit. It's surprisingly less snowy than most other places right now. And then online, redfrogevents.com can direct you to any of our websites for any of our events. You can look up goofy bios of Kahan and myself on there. But yeah, that's probably the best spot. And I'm usually I'm on the back end of Firefly social media. So if you want to say something nice, that's always appreciated.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you guys again for coming in today's show. You guys are just so awesome to be here. For those who are tuned in live right now, you're going to want to tune in live next week at 5 p.m. Eastern. If you're not tuned in live, you definitely have to get in on this, because then you guys are the ones that get to ask all these questions that are coming in and get to meet our awesome guests. So be sure to tune in next week, 5 p.m. Eastern. We have an absolutely awesome panel. I'll make sure I get the right one. When you do this 9 weeks in a row, they all start to kind of blur together, but I'm going to make sure I get this 100% right to make sure I got the right one. Yes. Okay, cool. So we actually have the founder and a couple really awesome key people from a company known as ReedPop. And if you've never heard of ReedPop, they're the ones who produce New York Comic-Con, Chicago Comic-Con, Emerald City Comic-Con, PAX, which is a big gaming conference, and Star Wars Celebration. They do them all over the country. They do Australia's Comic-Con. Oh my gosh, you name it. They do all pop culture conferences. So I'm really excited to have Jim, Lance, and Mike and Hound to be able to talk and get it going. So tune in next week, 5 p.m. Eastern for #event icons. But, we got to get back to playing some events. So thank you guys all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.